Hey, everybody. Welcome back to this episode of the Discover Podcast. So glad that you're with us. I'm here with Jake and with Monty. And it's summertime. These are bonus episodes. So we are bouncing around the church to see where maybe we want to do the podcast next. So today we are in the youth room, checking that out. And so that's part of the fun for the summers. You never know where we're going to be posted up for these episodes. So
we shouldn't tell them and see if they can recognize where
true.
we are.
Yeah.
Actually, that'd be fun.
Yeah. Anyway, so glad that you're here. Hope you're having a good start to your summer. We are in our last bonus episode, our preview bonus episode. I can't remember how it all rolled out or what we said, but we threw out a form for you guys to submit some questions. We said one of the things we wanted to do with our bonus episodes is possibly do some question and response format. And so we had a couple questions come our way, and so that's what we're going to do today. We're just going to answer a few questions that you guys submitted, and hopefully they're helpful. Hopefully they engage you further. And what would be great is if we could, in these episodes, somehow give a link to that form so that if people wanted to continue to submit questions, you could do that. So we'd love to continue to hear your questions throughout the summer.
And when he said that, he means Monty. Can you do that?
Notice how I looked his way.
Yeah, you didn't look my way. I don't feel slighted at all.
Wow. If you are listening on Spotify, it is in the description. Same with YouTube. I believe on Apple as well.
Oh, so it's already there.
Yeah, the other podcasts
Fantastic.
I have less control over because of how we distribute it. I'm sure I could have the control over it. I just don't know. Yeah. But if you can't find it there, go to our Instagram or our Facebook, and you'll be able to find it there. Facebook. No R in Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook. Cool. All right, so we got 3 questions that we are going to tackle today, and Monty has those questions for us. So fire away with question numero uno.
Numero uno. Okay, so this one is, why does God say no, especially to good things? The way that they phrased it was, when God says no, especially to a godly desire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Why does God say no?
Why does God say no, Jake?
To a good and godly desire.
To a good and godly desire.
Yeah.
I think Bryan goes first.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So, that's a really broad question. So I think at some level, one of the things we need to do is bring it into some context, right? Some context around different situations in which people might be feeling like God is saying no to them in whatever place they're in. Because it may not be that God is actually saying no.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about the desire. So when I was, we'll use this as an example. When I was, and we can throw out other examples too, but this is the first one that came to mind. When I was in seminary, there were people in seminary who had a desire to be a pastor. I can think of one guy in particular who lives in Kentucky. His name is Matt. I don't think he ever became a pastor. He felt a sense of calling to go to seminary. I'm pretty sure he worked in HVAC and went to seminary, got an MDiv, same degree that I did, went back. What a nerd. Went back from seminary and never got a pastoral position. I think he's served significantly in his church. And he and I, after seminary, lost touch a little bit. But I've always wondered, like, for him, was that a desire that he had? Did he also feel like he was being called, and then it never panned out, and what do you do with that?
Yeah.
And so that's a scenario where it's a good, godly desire to be like, hey, I want to be in ministry. I actually feel a sense of calling into ministry, but it didn't pan out in the way that I thought. So use that as a framework for a desire that doesn't come to fulfillment, that is a good, possibly God-given desire.
Yeah. I mean, I think that one is hard because it feels like a calling. Like when you add like the calling, like if that is the case, if that's how it felt, like I am called into this, but yet at the same time, we don't know, God may have been calling you to seminary to get some equipping, but also calling you to do that through the marketplace, through the workforce. I remember once hearing a person kind of talk about like God's calling and God's plan. Like we think it's like cross-stitching, like seeing the final product, but for us it's more like seeing the bottom, like where it's just like these threads hanging down and you can't see everything. So it doesn't always make sense to us, but if we were able to somehow have the divine view, we could see like the actual pattern of what God was trying to do. And I think that's what makes this so hard.
Yeah.
Because in the end, I can think of like relationships I wanted to be in, and I look back and I'm like, whoa, I'm really glad that didn't happen. But in the time, it felt like it was the right thing, or, you know, maybe even jobs or other stuff like that. So I think in something like this, it's, do we have the framework where it's so specific that it's no to something really specific? You know, like that's different than no to God saying like, well, I'm not going to use you at all. Like that would be way weirder. Like for God not to do that, but for God, because I think part of what we also need to be able to say is sometimes we don't hear correctly. Maybe I thought God was telling me to do that, and that wasn't the exact way God wanted it to go.
We talk about that a lot when we talk about the idea of kairos moments and responding to what God is doing. Part of what we have to do is discern and test to see if we are, in fact, discerning correctly with what God is up to in our lives. The other thing that I'm reflecting on is this idea that there were a lot of people in seminary who went to seminary just because they didn't have anything else to do next. Like they didn't know what their next step was. And so, you know, that's a different situation where like God saying no to them is, well, God didn't actually call you. So there's a calling at times that comes our way for ministry. And I think we're all called to ministry for sure, just like you were saying, but that calling looks different in different ways. A vocational calling, I would say, is different than just a general follow me and, you know, spread my word, engage in my kingdom, do those things on a daily basis. So that perceived no from my friend Matt, you know, the interesting thing about that is I don't know if he ever would have gotten clarity as to why. I was talking to somebody just the other day, and this is something I picked up from N.T. Wright.
Love that guy.
And I heard this during the pandemic. It was near summer of 2020. And one of the major questions that surfaced during the pandemic from a theological, spiritual standpoint is why? Why is this happening? And so I can't remember if he put out a book or a podcast. And what he said in that, though, was really interesting. He said that the why question is a very modern and privileged question. I don't think we realize in the ancient world, you don't find that question wrestled with a whole lot in the Bible because their mode of operation was about survival. And so when the famine hits in, you know, whatever that is in the book of Acts in the first century, there's this big massive famine that Paul talks about. He's raising money for the church in Jerusalem. N.T. Wright says, you know, there's not a whole lot of question as to, they don't necessarily ask the why question, they ask the what question. The what question being, what do I do next? So I think for us, we have to recognize that the why question is a really privileged question. Many people in the world don't get to ask that question because they're trying to survive. Many people throughout history haven't been able to ask that question because their key objective is survival. And so it's one of those questions that we are fortunate to be able to wrestle with and write books on and give lectures on and different, you know, thought spaces. But it's not one of those questions that necessarily a lot of people in the world get to ask.
As you were saying that, one of the things that popped into my head is, you don't often hear the why. You actually hear the how long. Actually, how much longer is this going to go on? And I think that comes from a worldview of everything doesn't work out. So I think of some of the Psalms, or I think of Revelation, where it's like, how much longer, oh Lord, is this going to keep up? And I think if we can frame that, some of the why questions, they don't get pushed to the side, but they get reframed differently, that we live in this already, but not yet. Because what they're calling is, how long till it's not yet? How long till it's fully fulfilled, a realized kingdom of God? Because if you think of where we sit, the no answer isn't always God. It's that we live in a broken, fallen world. Like, do we attribute the not being able to have children? Because I think that's where some of these questions lie. Like, good, godly desire to have kids. Is that always God who's not? Or is that part of the fall in the broken world we live in? And I know that's not the answer everybody wants, but I actually think that's more the biblical framework is like, how long till we live in a world where this isn't the case anymore? And that's, I think, what Revelation 21 and 22 answer. Is there is a day when that doesn't happen.
That's good.
I read this question a little bit on the like, why do bad things happen to good people kind of line, and that's not the question that they were asking, but that's where I was hearing it. And like, you know, Job is like the case study for that. And I was reading, I want to say it was Robert Alter. I was trying not to say rabbi because I knew that I was going to get made fun of.
Yep.
And he's not a rabbi. He's Jewish, but he's not a rabbi. But he talks about Job, the book of Job, being like this answer to people thinking that if you sin, bad things are going to happen to you. And so like almost this Jewish karma type of idea. And it's like, well, no, here's a guy who's good.
Yeah.
He's blameless. And bad things happen to him. It's a result of the fallen world that bad things happen. And it's both comforting and also like discomforting that it's like, it's not necessarily that it's a, what am I trying to say? A result of our actions? Sometimes it is.
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely,
not always a cause and
sometimes.
effect.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
A book that Chris really likes is by 𝙒𝙄𝙎𝙏𝙃, and I'm forgetting what it's called, Dark Knight or something like that. But he makes this comment about how God's going to give you 4 responses. Yes, no, not yet, and it's up to you.
Yeah.
You know? And like that's been a very powerful thing for me of like sometimes it really is my own doing. I don't think in the context of this question, but sometimes it isn't.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think too sometimes a no is a not yet.
Yeah.
And we don't necessarily always have the perspective to see that, right? It's like that the back of the tapestry. What we see is the mess, and we don't see the full picture. We don't see the big 30,000-foot view. What we see is our circumstances, and this thing that I want is not happening right now, so that must mean it's a no, when perhaps God is saying no, not yet.
Yeah.
And he's trying to get us ready for whatever that thing is.
Yeah. Or no, not this way.
Yeah.
Like I think of the not being able to have a child. Like I feel like we have a insane amount of friends who weren't able to have kids, but we also thus have an insane amount of friends who've adopted and have watched them, like their families grow in that way.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think if you were to ask them now, they might say, oh, I am sad that we weren't able to have biological kids. I think of my friends Ben and Katie, but they have a wonderful family.
Yeah.
And I just saw my friends Luke and Becca, the same story. They both have adopted 2 children.
Yep.
Yeah.
And both, wanted to have their own kids biologically. And so it was a no to that way, but not a no completely. It was just not the way you were expecting.
Yeah.
And I do feel like God works that way a lot too.
Yeah.
Like you think it's going to go this way. You're actually going to get to something similar.
Yep.
But it's just going to take a much different route than you were expecting.
Yeah.
That's good.
That is.
That's good. Anything else to say about that question?
Man, it's a powerful question to keep wrestling through.
Yeah, it's one of those that no matter how much time we spend on that
Yeah.
question in this episode, we will never fully satisfactorily answer that question because the why question, I just don't know how you necessarily adequately answer that if you're not God.
And I think that's going to be most of the questions we get from something like this are the ones that we are going to do our best to like respond to.
Yeah.
But we're not going to give the definitive answer, or else we probably wouldn't be sitting here in this podcast. We might have more followers. I don't know.
I think to close that, one of my favorite sayings that I've ever been given came from seminary. It was like day 1 of my theology class, and the professor walked in and said, "A God you can fully understand is not a God worth fully understanding." And so I thank God that my knowledge falls short. And then I go to like the story of Jacob wrestling with God.
Yeah.
Like wrestle with God, but don't separate. That clinging is what matters.
Yep. Good.
Yeah. Okay. The second question that we had. This is a fun one and a big one. Okay. So you know how sin begets sin. If I sin toward you, there's this river of cruelty where then you're more likely to cause sin towards someone else. It's more likely to cause you to sin towards someone else. Grammar is not my strong suit. Actually, it is, but yeah. So sin can beget sin, and then we just have this whole system of sin.
Cycle of sin.
Yeah. What about healing? Like, can healing provide other healing? And within that, is it selfish to focus on your own healing so that you can then be this? The phrase that they used came from Henry Nouwen, this wounded healer for other people. I
Yeah.
love Henry Nouwen, and so that made me very excited when I saw that.
I think my first response, like my initial knee-jerk response is like, yes.
Yep.
Like healing should be able to promote healing. Healing should be able to spread in the same way that sin does. Just because somebody's healed and whole doesn't necessarily mean it will happen in every situation. And I think we also have to define what we mean by healing. Is it physical healing? Is it emotional healing? Is it spiritual healing? Because there's some aspects of healing. Like when you mentioned Henry Nouwen and the idea of the wounded healer, I'm thinking about something that's more emotional, spiritual, rather than something, physical. Because I think physical healing does happen. I think it can happen through medical intervention. I think it can happen supernaturally. But I don't think that's one of those things that we can necessarily influence in the same way that if I'm a healthy and whole person, I have a greater chance of bringing that health to other people to help them promote their health.
Yeah, because we know the reverse is true, that what is the Brene Brown quote, hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
And that's true. Like you see that in families. You see that like Christians would often call that just generational sin.
Yeah.
But you see it in the reverse. You see like people who break the cycle, and then all of a sudden that family is now like healthy. And they have healthy. So I think the answer to that question is like on a big picture. Definitely.
Absolutely.
To the secondary question, is it selfish to work on yourself? That one I would say to a point it can be. Like I think if you are like so focused on I need to get to this point to be able to help other people. I don't know if that's the biblical story. I think God is using broken people to help people like all the time. I do think it's important to work on yourself. I think it's important to, whether it's counseling or just discipleship, mentorship, relationships, or both, or everything you can. That's important, but I don't know if it's always like I should wait until a certain point. Maybe you'd wait until you'd become like a professional counselor, but I don't think, so that's where I don't know where the question's going. Like if it's like I need to reach a certain point or I need to work on myself for such a point, then I would say like there is a line you could probably cross where it would be healthy.
We don't really fit into the holiness movement, total sanctification here, do we? Like,
meaning that you can become sinless.
That you can in this life become completely sinless.
I don't think so.
I don't. Okay, so I think my dad is like probably one of my favorite people to point to with this kind of question. 34 years ago, my dad was sitting in an Applebee's at the bar and realized he was an alcoholic. And then my mom was pregnant with my sister, and he was just realizing, oh, this is not who I want to be. And I've actually been to that Applebee's. It's really cool. I went to school in the same town, Manhattan, Kansas. But he then like really flipped his life around to the point that he is a full-time drug and alcohol counselor now. And he's been doing that for over 20 years, like pretty much the entire time I've known him, and that's been my entire life, but like that is really that hurt people, but healed people. And like it's out of his wound that he knows how to be there for people that have that same struggle. And I think that is a powerful thing that we can do. And I know for me, like a lot of my passion comes from mental health, and like that's from my struggles of mental health and like those things. So.
I think there are people out there who can neglect their own inner world and neglect their own emotional health from the standpoint of like, I just think it's bad to focus on myself, and it's self-indulgent to focus on myself, and so therefore I'm not going to do it. And I think you're missing an opportunity to grow, because nobody can take responsibility of your own health apart from you. Like we have to take responsibility for what we want. We have to take responsibility for the person we're becoming and we want to become. And so I would say it's not at all selfish to focus on yourself. I think to your point, you can get to that place where you're overly consumed with yourself. But I think, if you're not a narcissist and you have a reasonable measure of like it's important to become a healthy person, and it takes intention.
Yeah.
Health takes intention, whether it's you're tilling the soil to grow something, whether it's taking care of your own physical body. Like the things that I do to try and stay healthy take intentionality.
Yeah.
And so you have to be intentional to become a healthy person.
Yeah. And you keep doing those as you serve other people.
Right.
Like, I think that's the other thing. You
Oh,
don't
yeah.
like do it to a point so that I can.
Yep.
Like, I'm not like focusing on my emotional, mental health because I want to get to a point to serve other people.
Right.
Yeah.
If I'm smart, I'm going to be doing those things till the day I die.
Yeah.
And so I think that's part of the reality too, is like, it's not I do this and then I do that.
Right.
Yeah.
It might be I do this for a season so that I'm in a better position to do the other thing, to serve other people.
Yep.
But even as you're serving other people, it'd be crazy if you struggled with alcoholism and started to help people, and then we're like, well, now I'm not going to focus on that part of my life anymore.
Right.
I'm just going to focus on helping other people, and I'm going to go back to the bar.
Yeah,
like
right.
that would be unwise. So
Absolutely.
you keep working even while you're serving other people.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That is really good. Oh, dang it. I shouldn't have started talking. My brain had something and I lost it.
Bummer.
The last episode, Jake had made the comment about how like it can often feel like the spiritual practices are a very selfish thing because a lot of the time they're looking at yourself.
Yeah.
And like it feels weird, especially in a lot of like modern Protestant settings, to look at ourselves because it's like, well, that's not good. I'm not good. I don't need to look at myself. But like change happens when you see what needs to be changed.
Right.
And I think, definitely to a point it can be selfish. But when you are genuinely trying to know God, like you become more humble. You become more selfless. You become more of those, Galatians 5 things.
Yeah.
And
that is something that comes out of you seeking health.
Yep.
That might actually be a good way to decide if you're getting more healthy
Oh,
as
yeah.
you're doing it.
Yeah.
If you're not moving towards humility, and if you're not moving towards
Yeah.
like loving other people, like you may be thinking like, oh, how did this become all about me in this unhealthy way? I think going to the narcissistic kind of approach.
Right.
Yeah.
You pointed at me when you said that, so I didn't know why. But
Enneagram 8.
If you're a narcissist.
if you're a narcissist, like my deep fear. So
Right. Yeah.
You're not.
Yeah. So I think the point is, yes, work on yourself.
yes,
Yeah.
And as you work on yourself, you will grow in your ability and your capacity for the healing and the wholeness that you're experiencing to help other people. That also takes intentionality to find ways to put yourself in spaces where you can extend that to other people as well. But it's worth doing.
Yep.
Yeah, that's so good. Okay, this next question, last question. I'm excited to hear you guys talk about it, and I think it's probably one of them that's applicable to the Summer Reformation the most directly. What is the purpose of prayer? Like, what does prayer actually do? Mm-hmm. If God already knows what we're going to pray for, does it change anything?
Yeah. I would imagine somewhere along the way, we talked about this earlier in the year when we were talking about some of these spiritual practices. Maybe not, but first and foremost, I think if we're going at prayer and we're talking about prayer and thinking about it in terms of like, what does it do? In terms of like, we're hoping for some effect in life or circumstances outside of myself that I can't control, we might be missing the initial point of prayer, right? So if we're hoping it does something in the world or it produces a result for me, we might be missing its fundamental objective. That's my first thought.
But I feel like you're now making us ask, what do you think the fundamental objective is?
Why don't you answer that?
Well, you said it.
I think it's a relationship with God, right?
Oh, that's good.
I think, all right, fine.
Was he mocking you or serious?
I don't know. I don't know why I'm here anymore.
It's been a long year.
No, but I do think, right, it's relationship with God. It's creating dependency on God. So if we're hoping for prayer to produce a result, we're missing the idea that really it's to cultivate relationship.
Yes.
It's to cultivate intimacy with God. Now, God cares for things, or he cares for you, and he cares for the things that you care about, because it says in Philippians, it says in, I think it's 1 Peter one of the Peters, like cast all your anxieties, cast all your cares, bring God your concerns, like do that in prayer. But if we're only going to prayer asking for things, we're missing the point of prayer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when you frame it in relationship, as much as Montie's going to laugh at you for saying it, apparently,
I'll clarify in a second.
is the idea of like, if you were to ask me, why do I spend time with my wife? I wouldn't say like, well, to get A, B, and C out of it, or to get her to do this or that. That would seem
Abusive,
oddly transactional. You would question some things. But if it was like, because I want to, because I want to get to know her better, and I enjoy being with her. I think part of the point of prayer is to get to know God, to learn how to hear his voice, and to also grow in enjoyment of him, which I think we miss completely when we talk about prayer.
Amen.
Prayer is like the thing we don't talk about enjoying. We talk about doing, checking off, getting to the next thing. And I'm as guilty of that as anyone else. But I think of even last week, we had the praying scripture, and part of it was like, read Psalm 23 and go for a walk. I was like, if I do this stuff more, I enjoy God more. I'm just walking, reciting Psalm 23 in my head and then praying to God as a response to it. That's actually joy. So if you can frame it in that relational thing, that relational idea, I think that is actually a really beautiful thing. But I do think you then get to the next part, that I also spend time with my wife and talk to her to see things change. To see, and I think we don't want to go so far, I think sometimes in the Protestant world of, well, prayer is just about like relationship with God, but it's not about like thinking that God can change things. Because I think you would be missing a lot of Jesus's teaching on prayer. Like when he talks about like a demon being expelled through prayer and fasting. Like he's like, no, you got to pray and fast for this to happen. Like he gives us, and I think we're uncomfortable with that, because then we have to ask the question of, what if it doesn't happen? And that's the why question that I think we realize. You know, we talked about, I don't know how long ago, half an hour at this point. We don't like putting ourselves in that position. So I think that's part of why we don't talk about prayer actually changing things sometimes, is because if it doesn't, we feel like there needs to be a why.
And is that somehow point back at us as though we're not effective or we're failures when it comes to prayer?
Okay, I apologize. I was not mocking you.
It's fine.
To be clear, I love that. I feel like it's almost been something I'm getting mocked for now from the youth group, because I'm always saying it's about being with God. It's about dwelling with God. My favorite like short definition of the gospel comes from 𝘾𝙊𝙉𝙃. God draws near. And like, I just adore that. God is right here. Are we turning to God? And I think that's where so much relationship with God is, of that, like, God is dwelling with us as much as possible. Are we turning toward God and seeing God where God's at? And the purpose of prayer, I agree. It's about being with God. I feel like I'm like going to start quoting 𝙒𝙄𝙎𝙏𝙃's book with that, but it's just so good.
You can just read that.
It's a really beautiful book, honestly.
But I think those two things, in terms of relationship and also seeing God do things through our prayers, is really powerful. I think of, Moses, when God's like, hey, I'm out. Like, I'm not going with these people anymore. And Moses is like, you can't. Like, Moses pleads with God, and it appears in that moment changes God's mind, right? Which is a pretty wild thing to think about, right? You think of Abraham in, I don't know if it's Genesis 18, where God's like, I'm going to destroy this city. And Abraham's like, well, what if there was like 50 righteous people? And God's like, okay, I'll spare it, but there's not. And he's like, well, what if there's 40? He's like, fine, I'd spare it, but there's not. And then he goes all the way down to 1, and God spares the city. It's like he saves who's there. And it's one of those things that is mysterious to me. And I think in part is another reason to keep working at prayer, because prayer is a mysterious activity. And if you're going into prayer to try and figure prayer out, again, you're going to frustrate yourself and miss the greater part of prayer, which is relationship, but also to be bold in our prayers and asks for the things that we want to see, assuming that our desires are aligned with God's desires. And it's not all about me, and turning God into a genie or some Santa Claus. Like, it's okay to bring bold requests before God.
I think prayer also aligns our heart with God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the more we're praying scripture, the more we're praying truth from God, the more it just aligns us to what he is doing, also opens our eyes to what he is doing. So I think of, I have a mentor who like has these people he has prayed for, I think for decades.
Yep.
But he is thinking about them, he's praying about them. And so when he's in connection with them, like relationship, he's thinking about how he can help and be a part of their life. It's not something he's just rushing through anymore because his heart has been for those people.
Yeah.
And I think his heart has been for those people in a way that God's heart is for those people. And I think that changes. So prayer changes you in a lot of ways. And I think that's what maybe even kind of piggybacking off what you said, prayer changes us and it does change other things. And sometimes it changes other things by how it changes us and then how we interact with other people.
Yeah.
It's not always this big thing, but it can be. You know, like I think it's the question of like when someone says pray for that, do we actually pray for it?
Right.
Do we believe it'll change anything?
Right.
What if we just did?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we just prayed for it and we believed God was going to do something.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and hoping the result is whatever we're praying for, but also knowing that something in us is being affected as well. What were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say, and with that, prayer doesn't mean that we're done. Like, I get so peeved, I think, whenever it's like, you know, walking by someone and just saying, oh, I'll pray for you, and then leaving it at that. It's like, we're called to be a part of the solution, you know? Like, we can't always be the solution, but, like, prayer is step one, and it is one of the most crucial ones. But if we're not doing anything beyond that,
Right.
then
Meaning like there's an actual physical need.
Yeah.
And you can meet that need rather than just
Exactly.
saying pray for it. Somebody's like, hey,
Yeah.
I need a meal. And you're like, I'll pray for that. You're like,
Yeah.
well, you should actually give them the
yeah,
meal.
like it should not be a blow-off answer. It is such a sacred thing, you know?
Well, I think you see that sometimes, like you see people who maybe think that's what you should do with someone who's like asking for money.
Yeah.
I'll pray for you. I've given you the real thing.
Yeah.
Like, I think Jesus would have done both.
Yeah.
Like, why can't we do both? Like, I just
Right.
don't. There was this book, I think it was by a pastor in, I think, the Vineyard denomination, but he wrote a book called Both End.
Yeah.
And he just got frustrated with people being like, well, it's one or the other. And he's like,
Yeah.
there's so much in our faith that's both.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
can pray for someone or share the message of salvation with someone and physically help them
Right.
Yeah.
at the same time.
Yeah.
But we
So good.
somehow act like you do one or the other.
Yeah, absolutely. It's big. Oh, my brain, it keeps on slipping as I have something to say. Yeah,
Not coming back.
that's not coming back. Gosh.
I'll pray for you.
Thank you. You see, there are times where it's like that is the only response we can have, and it's true. But I think that the pet peeve just comes when we're not willing to do more.
Yeah.
And like praying opens our eyes.
Yeah.
It
Yep.
should open our eyes. And like, you know, we have the summer formation that's come out. Sign up, do all the things, but like there are so many forms of that are like, now I'm going to be observant. And like we start intercessory prayer the week that this comes out. And like intercessory prayer, if you are checking up on people and following through with them and like asking, how can I be with you? Like that is powerful. And like there are so many of those that it's like that where like this should change me. It's impossible to encounter Jesus without experiencing life change.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably a good like thing to process through too. Like if I am praying intercessory prayers, is it also leading to an like increase in my engaging with people's needs or sharing about Jesus with people? Because I think the answer should be yeah. Like they're both gonna grow. As one grows, the other grows.
Yeah.
Because your heart is just more aligned with God's.
Yeah.
absolutely.
If it's not, you're probably saying no to some things God's asking you to do that He's bringing to light, or there's a miss somewhere in there would be my guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
And then sometimes it's good to pray for people that can't be in your life for whatever reasons.
Yeah.
And like there are those times where prayer is going to have to be what you do and say, God, this is you. You know, the pastoral phrase of let go and let God. I was shocked when you didn't do let this mess be a message. You know, the cheesy pastoral clips. quips. But,
When would I have said that?
oh, I don't remember. You almost said like something similar. It was like,
That's
oh,
funny.
that's funny. I'm glad you didn't say
Yeah,
that
me
because
too.
they're dorky.
Yeah. Well, anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, hopefully as we kind of work through these 3 questions today, it gives you guys just some more food for thought on them. And if you're somebody who asked these questions and our responses generate another question or generate a response in general, we'd love to hear from you on that. So feel free to go to the form that Monty referenced earlier in the episode to fill that out, to send more questions our way or to send other responses our way, and we'll continue to engage with you in this conversation. So hope you're having a great start to the summer. We look forward to continuing this as we go along, and by the time we hit the fall, we'll be back in a rhythm of posting every week or having weekly episodes. But until then, we'll see you next time.